Robberies, racist abuse, assault and harassment. For over 10 years, Suresh Kumar has suffered over 200 attacks. He's been sprayed with CS gas, held up at gunpoint, had his till carried away, threatened with a machete, as well as pushed, spat at and racially abused.
You're Asian. You're nothing.
After each attack, Suresh called the police, but despite the CCTV evidence, nearly all his attackers have escaped justice.
They've broken my nose, they've broken my cheekbone.
How many people have actually been arrested or convicted?
Well, actually arrested about eight people.
About 8 people?
8 people. They're convicted about 4.
About 4. And you've had over 200 attacks?
Yeah.
How do you feel?
That's a feel of no justice for the victim.
Oh, come on in, it's all empty.
It's a sentiment shared by the Cotters, another hard-working family, destroyed by crime.
That's it, empty.
Today, Chris Cotter is shutting up his shop in Plymouth for the very last time after an attack just 3 weeks ago.
The last straw was the robbery, when 2 guys came in and threatened a member of our staff. A lady who was 5 months pregnant, threatened her with violence, forced her to open the safe, walked away with the whole week's takings, on top of the antisocial behaviour and the 2 attempted burglaries over the last 14 days prior to that. Just the abuse and the general theft that's gone on for the last sort of 2.5 years. Just the final straw. Just can't afford to put any more time and energy into it.
The 2 men who robbed the store, like almost all their previous attackers, have never been caught by the police.
The back doors have been kicked in and broken in with crowbars. We've had a hot coffee thrown over staff members. We've had them punched,
spat at,
headbutted.
You name it, they've had it done to them, you know.
I'd expect the number of times we've called police has got to be in excess of 70 odd times for all sorts of crimes over the years.
Easily, if not more.
We've had our lives threatened. We've threatened to have the shop blown up. We've had one individual, and he'd upped the ante so much that he decided he could walk in behind the counter, take 4 or 5 packets of cigarettes and walk back out laughing, saying, "You cannot do anything." And he's probably right.
All this, and yet only one person has ever been arrested by police and taken to court. He was fined just £30 for breaking their shop windows, a fine he never paid. It cost the Cotters £700 to repair.
Fred and Ursula Picton Turbeville did everything to protect their 4 small children in their Watercliffe Ridge home in Pretoria. A month ago, they were having a family day, playing games and watching DVDs. Suddenly, 2 men appeared in their backyard. Ursula tried to get the kids into the house.
He knocked the cell phone out of my hand, put the gun to my head and was just going, "Sleep, sleep, sleep." So they got us all down on the floor. The kids were in front of me and the 2 little ones were sort of around the corner in the passage. And Fred was then behind me. And he was just saying to them, "Please don't hurt my children, please don't hurt my children." And I'm saying to the kids, "Be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, just do what they say." And we're saying to them, "Take whatever you want. Just go, just take, go." And the other guy just came up and just shot him. Just shot him in the head.
And as he's coming through, she shot him. He went down, and then she ran out her front door with the shotgun in her hand.
This registered sex offender is dead. The woman who shot him will not face criminal charges. Her harrowing Halloween story tops our news today at 5.
Good afternoon, everyone. 5 days after a local woman is raped, authorities say her rapist returned for a second attack.
But that second meeting left this man dead. He is 47-year-old Ronnie Pryor, a registered sex offender living in Jackson. The victim, a 57-year-old woman living here in Cape Girardeau. Now, we're not going to release her name nor where she lives, but authorities want us to tell you about what she did to protect herself from being attacked a second time. It's our top story today at 5. Cape Girardeau County Prosecuting Attorney Morley Swingle was writing up charges against Ronnie Pryor when he got the word that Pryor had died.
Instead of filing the charges on him, I began a letter to Chief Kennison letting him know that the woman in this case, a 57-year-old woman, is not going to be charged with any sort of crime.
Swingle's letter lays out a harrowing story that begins 5 nights ago when a man breaks into the woman's home through a basement window and rapes her.
She had seen his face and had described these unusual black spots on his face, these blemishes, but she didn't know him. He was a complete stranger.
Cape Girardeau police begin working the case and patrolling the woman's neighborhood. In the meantime, she gets her basement window fixed and borrows a friend's 12-gauge shotgun. Just after midnight on Halloween, the nightmare begins again. The woman hears a car door slam and calls 911.
Once they satisfied her and themselves that nobody was there, they left. She was then watching TV, and at about 2:15 in the morning, suddenly her power went out.
Swingle says Ronnie Pryor had broken back in through the same basement window and cut off the electricity.
She got spooked when electricity went out. She got a shotgun, and she sat in the chair listening. Then she heard somebody slamming against her basement door in her kitchen, and she went and looked at that kitchen door, and he slammed it a second time and actually broke through it. And as he's coming through, she shot him. He went down, and then she ran out her front door with the shotgun in her hand, got to a neighbor's and was pounding on the door, screaming for help.
Officers arrived in seconds to find Pryor stumbling through the victim's backyard. He died at a local hospital 7 hours later.
Rape conviction. Got a 10-year prison sentence in November of 1989.
Morley Swingle calls Ronnie Pryor a career criminal with 11 felony arrests and 5 convictions. Having just fought to protect Missouri's new rules on sex offenders and Halloween, Swingle sees the bizarre timing of this already closed case.
If Ronnie Pryor had pulled off what he intended to pull off, it would have been a registered sex offender raping a woman on Halloween. It's just that she had taken steps to make sure it wasn't going to happen to her again by notifying the police department, by asking for the extra patrols, and by arming herself with a gun.
Cape Girardeau County Coroner John Clifton tells me he plans to rule Ronnie Pryor's death as a justifiable homicide, agreeing with Morley Swingle that no charges will be filed.
A robbery suspect is dead after a late-night robbery in Englewood. Investigators now tell us a store customer gunned down the suspect. News Channel 5's Jeff Tang talked with one of the clerks who saw the entire thing happen.
Sinkers Wine and Spirits lost some of the good stuff on Saturday night.
Well, they just shot up some bottles.
But Clifford Baxter is hardly upset. He's just happy to have survived the gunfight that took place in his store over the weekend. 2 armed men tried to rob Sinkers late Saturday.
Well, I was coming out the back room when he started in the front door with a pistol in his hand, and I immediately went back to the back to call 911.
Meanwhile, police say the suspects pointed a gun at store clerks and forced 2 customers to the ground. But one of the customers was carrying a gun and ended up using it.
I heard the shooting.
Baxter believes the customer and the suspects exchanged about 10 gunshots. The would-be robbers tried to flee, but one of the men collapsed at the scene and died shortly after. Police say the citizen had a valid carry permit and a right to protect himself.
A citizen, just like a police officer, have the right to defend themselves or defend others if they're in fear of death or serious bodily injury, and that right extends to using deadly force.
Just a little nerve-wracking, just thinking things could have been a lot worse.
Even though the store was closed Sunday, Clifford Baxter had to come back to work to clean up. And while the employees at Sinkers are armed only with broken glass and a mop, they're thankful one of their customers protected them with something more.
It makes you feel good, and I appreciate it, and I let him know last night that I appreciated it.
Jeff Tang, News Channel 5 HD.
And still tonight, Metro Police are still searching for the other suspect. They're also interviewing witnesses, all to make sure the customer's actions were justified. Meantime, the workers at Sinkers tell us they have plans to protect themselves in the near future.